I want to give you a little behind the scenes look. This is actually a presentation I gave to our dev team. It's interesting the dynamic between being a heavily people focused organization as well as being highly reliant on technology. That's kind of like our people live in the world of technology. So we do a lot on like the team management people side of it, soft skills, and then we actually do have a lot on like the hard skills. We have to like ship ideas and features and build out things that make our lives better or easier or just stay relevant in the times, because we never want to catch ourselves becoming an organization like Blockbuster, where you're so set in what works that you're resistant to the new wave of what is coming. And so this is, I titled it How We Set Dev Priorities. This is developer priorities. And then quick, kind, and thorough. That's actually a framework that was pioneered on our support team side of it. Is like, that's our objective, is we want to be quick, kind, and thorough in that order and in its full completeness there. So this is a framework and really just me trying to pull out what were the decision-making guidelines going on inside of my mind that allowed me to lead the dev team. And so this was in the process of handing over that leadership, or at least decentralizing that leadership. That's what this presentation was created for. So first thing is why prioritization even matters. So to be clear, we want to be purpose-driven developers. We don't just build to build, we build for better support outcomes or outcomes. And for us, that throughput is 5-star experiences. Everything that we're creating and building, it supports the infrastructure and the objective of making complicated things clear and frustrating experiences delightful. We are transformers. That's where we live. We live on the edge of people being incredibly frustrated because they couldn't do it themselves, so they needed help. And so then they reach out to HLPT, and we want to genuinely help them. And the product, the throughput of us genuinely helping someone, is that they would say 5 stars, would recommend, would come back again, would tell my friends and family members they should come back again, right? So that's what we're looking at the lens of, is our technology needs to support the overall mission of making us better helpers. That's derived by being quick, kind, and thorough. But so every feature, everything we ship has to come down to like, is it making us faster? Is it making us kinder? Is it making us more thorough? If we develop and build towards that objective, we're going to be more likely to support the ultimate throughput we want, those 5-star experiences. And then in the prioritization order, speed comes first, then kindness, then thoroughness. So if we think about like the problems that we can solve or the ways that we can advance our solutions, for us, it's just our foundational framework. We believe if we aren't fast, you don't care how kind we are. And then if we aren't kind, you don't care how knowledgeable we are, right? But ultimately, a 5-star experience is being quick, kind, and thorough. But there is a hierarchy. If you think through any other kind of like contingent system, these are the contingencies for us. So if there's a problem making us slow, we got to fix that. That's the highest priority. And if there's a problem for some reason, or if there's a team member who's not being kind, it will not be perceived as helpful. It won't generate 5-star experiences. So that's just a clarity for us on the dev team. And what I was giving there is like, this is why prioritization matters, because we don't build just to build. We got to build for outcomes. Here's our singular outcome. And then here is the hierarchy of positive impacts we could make and how we even prioritize among those potential impacts that we can make. And okay, so next piece here was the user journey defining our work. And so we literally try to break down as small pieces as possible. Like, what is the interaction? First, someone opens up our widget, that support widget. They initiate contact with our team. Then they start the chat. Then they actually get support, the conversation going back and forth, and then they leave a review. So distilled down into these 4 steps, it's helpful to understand, because similar to our quick, kind, and thorough framework, there's like a functional piece here where if there's something blocking someone's ability to open the chat, that is the highest priority. And so we think of it almost like a funnel where, the higher up you go on the funnel, the more impact it has, because it creates appropriate pressure on the lower things. And so this is all based in the framework of the theory of constraints, or the idea of bottlenecks, which has a ton of impacts. I love it, talk about a ton, but one that I like to resonate with is that like solving a bottleneck improves everything. Solving a non-bottleneck improves nothing. And that's the struggle with all business, but definitely on the developer side of it, is we can feel good about building. But if we're not solving a real constraint or focusing and looking at the lens of like, is this preventing us from getting more throughput, we will accidentally spend time working on the wrong things that don't serve the bottom line there. So we want to understand our user journey, and that is what defines our work. So if the widget won't open, it doesn't matter. Like, we're not going to spend time improving our review request process there. You know, if all of these are ranking high, then we're looking at things. How do we make our team more thorough? How do we make them better at getting the right answer all of the time, or, you know, as high of a percentage of time as possible? Okay, so this is the decision lens that I realized I pulled this out of my brain. I was like, what do I do when I'm thinking through assembling all of the feature requests that we get, all of the bug requests we get, everything we've got there? And I came up with this FAST framework. And this is very similar. I was thinking about in the context of like ICE, which is impact, confidence, ease. And then I think we've added RICE to it. So Graham teaches this. He goes like reach, impact, confidence, ease. And it gives you a basis to actually grade the ideas. So that's you know, ICE is used like how to determine which ideas you should pursue. FAST tells us like which dev requests should we address first. And so from the bottom up, friction, does it remove pain points for our guests or for our agents, for the people that we're serving or for our team who's trying to serve them? If there is a friction point there, it gets a grade score, right? So we do this on a scale from 1 to 10, on, you know, 10 being literally the app doesn't open. You know, it's not addressing a friction point at all. Advantage, does it make us faster? Does it make us kinder? Does it make us thorough? All right. And so we also like supplement this. I realized after this presentation, I wanted better defining variables, similar to the how we do it with RICE, where it's like people know now there's a common framework. If it only makes us faster, so it's 1 out of 3 there, the highest score can get on advantage is a 4, right? If it only affects 2 of these, the highest score it can get on advantage is a 7, right? So if we're talking 8, 9, 10 when we're scoring for advantage, it has to make us faster, make us kinder, and make us thorough, right? And so that's the other piece of this, is when you're creating a decision-making guideline for folks, it's helpful to have, like, to break it down into less subjective terms, right? Like, this is objective. You look at it, you grade it, you know, it's, if it affects all 3, it's going to be in that 7 to 10 range. If it only affects 1, it can't be more than a 4. And so it allows us to create a basis for prioritization there that's quantifiable. People look at it, they all come to similar numbers there, and they can see, why are you prioritizing one thing over the other? Oh, because it literally has higher number. Savings, does it eliminate tools or reduce time friction there? You know, it's basis of how many tools is it eliminating, how much time is it saving, or is it like literally reducing costs there? So there's a factor there of 1 through 10. And then throughput, will it lead to more 5-star outcomes? Like, is it connected to creating more 5-star outcomes there? And what we did is I actually introduced a multiplier on throughput, right? It's top of the pyramid. So all of these are, they build up to each other. But if the feature itself is directly related to create more throughput, which is that's our win. How many 5-star experiences can we create? Then it gets double points there. So if you had an idea or a bug request or a dev request that was like, you know, 10, 10, 10, 10, the total score would actually be 50. And so conversely, if you had a request that was 5, 5, 5, 10, the total score there would be 10 times 2, so 20 plus 5, 5, 5, 15. So you'd actually be at 35. And so that was kind of the balancer equalizer there, is you have 4 variables that you're grading for. Throughput gets a double score there. And then we go through and take these ideas, all the requests that we get, that we're already running like a Scrum board. We already have like a Kanban board of ideas in the backlog, all things. Now we're actually introducing a quantifiable assessment, so that if you're wondering what gets done first, those that are ranked higher. And so I taught through, you know, we got to keep this constraint driven thinking here, is we identify blockers. What is actually blocking the support throughput here? Are there any ripple effects? Like, if we fix this one thing, does it create like a positive impact into other areas? And then we just want to remove the bottlenecks. Like, we need to remind ourselves, fixing a bottleneck improves everything. Fixing a non-bottleneck improves nothing. So spending energy fixing a non-constraint is wasted energy, which is very difficult and hard for people to comprehend, because we will either feel overwhelmed by all the things that we could do. So we're just sitting in this, you know, setting of overwhelm, or we'll try to attempt to solve all the 50 problems. And even if we make progress, the reality is it's wasted energy, and 49 out of the 50. Or we'll actually just prioritize the urgent over important always. Because when someone else is a squeaky wheel, or it feels like this problem's in front of me, I don't take a moment to ask myself, is this an actual constraint for our throughput? It's just, is this painful? There can be lots of painful things that are problems you shouldn't solve. And so or you shouldn't solve now, right? A good thing at the wrong time is a bad thing. And so, wanted to double down on this constraint style thinking. We got to be driven entirely from our development and our prioritization of what we build to build things that actually solve the problem that you have now. Don't let ourselves build a problem just because someone else is loud about it, or just because we think we might have it in the future. We build in the correct order to allow appropriate pressure so that we maximize our throughput and our impact as a business. And then we went through this, prioritization of speed, right? It's fast, the quick, kind, and thorough. We want to ship the same way. We want to ship quickly. We're going to value speed tied to learning, because we're going to do kind of like an OODA loop cycle here, where it's observe, orient, decide, act. But like in our sense, it's going to ship, measure, learn, iterate. Ship, measure, learn, iterate. And we want to continue in that sprint cycle, as you may, as fast as possible. We talk through how, like, as you ship quickly, measure the impact, learn, adapt, and iterate, it actually builds confidence in the ecosystem of development. And this is something you see absolutely exemplified on the high level side, where they do this for sure. They ship, they prioritize speed over perfection. They measure the impact of how does it actually get experience, and how does it live in the environment there. They take feedback and then they iterate on it. And so as long as you've got a quick cycle, you can actually still maintain a good amount of trust, where you break fast, but you fix it faster. And as I was telling for the team, is like, we want to lean on this side, where we're not going to spend months debating whether a feature might have an impact or not, or how it might be used or not. We're going to lean towards shipping quickly, measuring that impact, making sure we got a system in place to measure that. We're going to interpret the results and insights. We're going to have a full feedback loop cycle there, and we're going to reship. And so ideally in the same week, we go through this cycle where we can ship it, we measure, we learn and adapt, and we can iterate. And so we do such a high volume that we actually have the ability to have this kind of a learning cycle there. And so we anticipate this when we ship, especially when it's like an MVP, or it's the first iteration of it. We plan the space for measure, learn, iterate. We ship, if we're shipping on Tuesday, we already know we're going to measure those results 24 hours later to plan to ship again on Thursday. So worst case scenario, people will experience a V2 within a 48-hour cycle there. And like I said, for us, this is for our team confidence as well as our guest confidence. We want the experience to be that we are responsive to the feedback, because it's almost impossible to have a perfect errorless development cycle. It just doesn't exist. So then you either ship infrequently, and then people are devastated by the negative impact and demoralized by the fact they're going to have to live in this, poor iteration, or you ship quickly, where it's painful for a short period of time, but people actually build confidence, where they start to believe, okay, let me tell you what's broken here. You'll fix it, and then we'll move on and move forward. And after a long enough time horizon, the more cycles you go through, where you can iterate and publish and iterate and publish and iterate, that's actually what creates meaningful progress and a moat that's very hard to compete with, because it's just it's a rep, it's a cycle. You have to go through the full learning experience there to actually gain the learning and gain the traction. This was just clarifying for our team that we are formally decentralized in the decision-making process here. We have a product manager. They set priorities. They run everything through the fast criteria. We have our dev, the lead, kind of assesses any technology constraints there, and we're balancing a fast score with also, call it that confidence and ease, and timeline there, because we might identify this as a high priority thing, but if it's going to take 4 months, we're going to want to ship quickly. And so we need to break it into smaller chunks, is really what it usually means there. And then, I said here is like, you are designated leader, gives the final green light. Right now we're running a 2 section there. So it goes product manager, kind of clarifies prioritization, dev lead, does a feasibility to say, yeah, this is good. And then product manager comes back again and like reaffirms, yeah, cool, we're on the same page, we're doing this. But like hypothetically, you could have a head over there. This is part of me removing myself. So I went from literally twice a day checking in with the team to now once a week checking in with the product manager and lead dev. And then we did an actual practice here. So we literally went through, we scored the backlog. We compared the reality between like, okay, based on the FAST framework, how would this rank? And then we just talked through insights here. So I hope this is helpful and insightful. There's some practical takeaways you can go for yourself. I know in the process of removing yourself in, decentralizing leadership and removing yourself as the constraint to any business growth is always difficult. My encouragement is start by trying to pull out how you currently do it, start to document it and translating it into a repeatable, measurable formula that someone can come behind you. Like I said, some of the cool feedback loops came through the presentation here when I gave it to our product manager and our dev lead. And it's a continuous process that we'll probably keep on iterating this to make sure that it's serving the team. Like, does the amplifier make sense? Does it not make sense? Continue to look and see, does this deliver the results that we want? So far, it's been kind of cool to see already the positive feedback loop from the team side of it, where they feel more heard as ideas are shipped. They are, any feedback and bugs are run through this criteria. They're given insight and visibility into the scoring criteria there. And then the ones that rate the highest, they're being shown, they are being shipped quickly there, in less than a day or 24, 48 hours. And so it's created a ton of positive feedback and trust, I'd say in particular for the product manager there. But this is, just an example of how we solve the problem of growing stronger while I personally am less tied to the day-to-day, because for us to have the impact and reach and success that we want to have, it can't come down to me as a person. We want to go far, and then once we go together, and so I want to do my best to just pass along any sorts of insights that I have in my brain and allow it to continue to evolve and grow and drive success for us as an organization. I hope you enjoy this. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I'll respond to every single one of those, and I'll see you on the next video.